I'm going to frame this story as it's another one of those cases where something that seemed like such a good idea not that long ago has turned out to be not such a good idea this many years later. And when I say good idea, I thought the whole idea, correct me now, I'm not the biggest, say, kitchen person, so maybe I don't want to misspeak here. I don't spend that much time cooking.
You're pretty good with the toaster oven and the microwave.
Yes. The issue, apparently, though, concerns gas stoves. Now, I thought, and first of all, when you watch those cooking shows on TV, they are always cooking with gas, right?
Yep, that has always been the chef's choice.
It's supposed to impart some kind of extra flavor, even cooking. I don't even know, but I'm making that up.
And the fancy home chefs, same thing.
Same deal. Mm-hmm. And some of the fancy stoves, by the way, gas stoves, are like into the thousands of dollars, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So you thought, well, that's a good way to go. Gas is fairly inexpensive, so it's not that expensive a way to cook. But it turns out now we're being told, not a good idea. Experts, some anyway, are saying you might want to consider switching back to an electric stove, like rolling the clock, the Wayback Clock to what it was 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Why is this happening? Tara KAHAN is an associate professor and Canada Research Chair in Environmental Analytical Chemistry, so making her, of course, the perfect person to speak to. She's at the University of Saskatchewan and on the line. Tara, thanks for your time this afternoon.
Oh, my pleasure.
That's a very long title, by the way. So
I know.
Congratulations.
I'm always pleased when I remember it.
I hate to see your business card. So,
but you have a Montreal connection, don't you, or no?
No.
Oh, okay. No, that's all right. That's totally fine.
Could have made
I get
one
mixed
up. So I'm curious. We're both curious. Why would we be telling people now to sort of basically go backwards? I thought the evolution was, from electric to gas. Why are we suggesting you go back?
Well, it turns out that gas stoves are maybe not so great for indoor air quality and therefore, your health. And recent research, not mine, is suggesting that they might also be bad for the climate.
Now, Tara, it seems to me that, like where we were talking about, there's a bit of prestige that goes along with the gas stoves, right? Like that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. All the top chefs that, like you said, on TV, they always seem to use them, and there is this idea that it's like the gold standard, right? But a lot of people are now moving towards induction, even, top chefs and restaurant owners and stuff like that.
How does induction work?
So it actually heats your pots and pans directly using essentially electromagnetism. So it sends electric pulses, and that instead of heating up, the elements, like with your old, 50 years old electric stoves where you have that coiled ring that starts glowing red and you have to wait for it. This one, the heat automatically, it's the actual pots and pans that heat up, not the stove itself.
So from a safety perspective, I would imagine that would be a huge asset.
Yes, I feel pretty good about with my very curious 5-year-old. Even once you're done cooking, like right after you've cooked something, you can touch it and it's hot, but it's not going to burn you.
You can touch the top of the stove after you've cooked something, and with induction, it's not even hot to the touch?
It is hot, but it's not, I can touch it quickly and not get burned. Because it's not the stove that's heating up, it's the pots and pans.
Wait a sec. You mean it's not the stove that's heating up? Something's got to heat the pots and pans.
Yeah, so it's actually the metal, the what we call ferromagnetic. So things that can, if you have anything in your pots and pans that can be magnetized, when you put these, sort of pulses of electricity through, they kind of start getting excited and get hot.
Oh, I know that.
Love that thank you so much for dumbing it down for us. No joke. That is very appreciated.
No, that's how I understand it too. I'm a chemist, not a physicist.
Okay. All right. And then in terms of if we're trying to convince people to start considering induction stoves instead of gas, in terms of expense, what are we talking? Is there any kind of comparison?
That's the problem. They're really, really expensive. Electric is also fine. I just like induction because it's as good as gas stoves, right? You get that instant heat, you get that control over the heat, even heating, all those things. But they're really, really expensive, and that's a big barrier.
But then again, if you're paying for gas stoves, there's some expense, I guess, with that as well, right? They don't offset each other, but...
Yeah, and I think that's why some restaurants are moving to induction largely, is because they're saving a lot of money in the long run with that.
So, Tara, tell us a little bit more about these pollutants. Like, I feel like we hear so much about outdoor pollutants and smog, but we don't hear a whole lot about indoor pollutants. So how bad is it when it comes to gas stoves?
That's a tough question, actually, to answer, because we don't know enough about indoor pollutants and sort of what levels of various pollutants are going to be harmful indoors, right? Outdoors is where most of the research has been done, but we do spend about 90% of our time indoors, which is really sad to think about, but is true. And so it's that air that we're breathing indoors that's really going to affect our health. And so the pollutants that we studied a few years ago were what you call nitrogen oxides. So it just means that you have nitrogen and oxygen stuck together. And these are components of smog, so we know them as pollutants outdoors, but even just breathing them in directly can be harmful. It can make, if you have asthma, it can make it worse. If you don't have asthma, prolonged exposure, say, by exposure from gas stoves over a long period of time, could actually cause asthma, especially in kids. And so the levels that we saw of these, I can't tell you if they were so high that they would likely cause asthma or not, because we just don't know those numbers. But it was enough to scare me and the other researchers doing this work. We hadn't even expected this. We weren't even looking at gas stoves. Mm-hmm. They just kind of jumped out at us as something that was emitting a lot of pollutants. So all of us swore off gas stoves after that, just as a sort of, better safe than sorry. We know these nitrogen oxides are not good for us. We don't know exactly what the effects, if any, will be with the levels that we were measuring, but, if you can avoid it, why not?
So you actively made the choice after doing this research to change your own stove yourself. How big a role did your 5-year-old play in this as well?
Yeah, so we didn't immediately, I didn't go and throw out my lovely gas stove and, buy a new stove. But when, we moved to a new house and it was time to buy a new stove, we knew gas wasn't even an option that we were considering. And yeah, a lot of it was because we had at the time, I think, a 2-year-old, and, you try to keep things safe and healthy for them. So induction seemed like a better choice.
A good move. And then I wonder about gas fireplaces. If this is true about stoves, would it also be a concern for fireplaces?
Thankfully not. Okay. I would be so upset if I had to give up my gas fireplace. But these, as well as furnaces and stuff, are vented outdoors. So you get the heat, but you don't get the gas or the products, the chemicals that are formed from that combustion process from the fire. So we did measurements with a gas stove or a gas fireplace on, and we didn't see anything. So as long as your gas fireplace is installed properly and is working like it should, you won't see any effects on the air quality in your house.
Okay, I'm just thinking, how long will it be? I hate to sort of be a cynic this way, to think that this idea of, okay, we're going to cook with induction, that's a good way to go. And then 5 years from now, we'll find out, well, that induction thing wasn't as safe as we necessarily thought it was because it emits something else. It seems that's sort of always the next step ultimately down the line. It's like people complaining about electric car batteries, right? Saying, yes, it's way better than driving a gas-powered car, but batteries are not perfect either, and they pollute the environment. So is that what's coming here with induction, do you think? Or is just am I too far down the line here?
I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, and I don't know, but I wish. Man, my life would be so much easier. But I don't think so. There's nothing, in hindsight, we should have expected this with gas stoves. You put a fire in your house, obviously, you're going to do something to the air quality. I agree with your cynicism. That does often seem to be the way things go. But I don't expect that in this case. I think, fingers crossed, I'm pretty sure this will be okay.
I have a kind of a technical question, but I'm imagining with a gas fireplace, they're contained and the venting happens directly. Is the problem with the gas stove that any kind of vent that you have, it's above, so some of those contaminants, or evidently quite a lot of them, are still going to make it into the air before they can get vented out?
What are you, an engineer?
No, I'm asking. Wow. No, I'm an idiot, so I want to know.
That's an excellent question. And so the answer, I know, I'm always it's complicated. But yeah, that is the issue, is first that even with vents running, right, so the range hood above your stove, first of all, if it's vented outside, so if the range hood goes directly outdoors, you are going to reduce the amount of pollution by a lot. Okay. And so that's a great thing. If it's what's called a recirculating hood, so it takes sucks everything in, blocks all the grease and stuff on a filter, and then just pumps it back into the kitchen or whatever, it's not going to do any good.
Okay.
So it's what type you have, but also people don't use their range hoods. They're loud, right?
It's
so
true.
Even houses that have them, people don't usually use them all that much. So, compliance is a huge issue. But if you can increase your ventilation either with the range hood or by opening a window in the kitchen or something like that, yeah, you can use your gas stove and actually feel fairly confident that you're getting rid of a lot of the pollutants that you're emitting.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Stuff.
Everything and anything you wanted to know about induction, gas, and electric ranges today on the show. Tara, thank you so much for your time.
It was my pleasure.
Tara KAHAN over at the University
Bye-bye
of
now.
Saskatchewan. So I went and looked up while she was chatting. What's a regular stove, like a 4-burner stove, go for typically? Ballpark? Is that
Oh, well, I mean, it could
$1,500 bucks, like a normal one?
No, it could be anywhere from about 600 to, I'd say, 1,200 for a regular one.
Okay. I found a Frigidaire 4-burner induction oven range, whatever it is, $2,194 at Home Depot.
Induction. See, so there you go.
2,100.
And gas, but that sounds comparable to a gas stove.
Right.
to
So
me.
if this is the way to go, maybe that is the way to go.
This is why I'm like old-fashioned electric.
I just love the idea that, the surface doesn't get all that hot, that in fact it's just not the stove, as she said, that heats up. It's your pot or pan that gets heated directly. That's kind of cool.
Especially if you have small kids, because I literally was always living in fear of my daughter putting her hands on the stove. We have a glass top, and so it doesn't look like it's hot, right? So it's scary.
Yeah, I would get one of these if I knew how to cook.